Tools required for dismantling aircraft. Disassemble the front hood body. Open the front cover body by hand and remove the fur buckles. Use M4 hexagon socket to remove and fix the 8 fastening screws on the front cover body. Remove the 4 M3 hexagon socket screws from the radar. Gently twist the lower cover shell with your hand, and gently remove the forward radar. Unplug the radar connection debugging cable, and disconnect the connection. Fix the forward radar with 4 screws. Disconnect the connecting water pipes on both sides of the water tank. Insert the outlet pipe of the floater into the side slot of the medicine barrel. Disconnect the spray adapter and spray bus, and take out the water tank assembly. After removing the water tank assembly, unplug the flow meter and spray bus connection harness. Remove the 4 hexagonal socket screws that fix the floater. Unscrew the nuts of the water pump outlet pipe and the flow meter outlet pipe, and remove the flow meter. Disassemble the water pump and unplug the wiring harness connecting the water pump and spray bus on both sides. Unscrew the bottom fixing nut of the water pump. Rotate the water pump and unscrew it. Remove the water pump outlet pipe. There are a total of 4 fixing screws for the water pump and flow meter. Disconnect the wire harness ends on the left and right ports of the main control in sequence. When plugging or unplugging, pay attention to pressing the wire harness buckle for disassembly. Remove the 6 hexagonal screws that fix the main control panel. Unplug the main control cooling fan connection harness. Unplug the 2.4 receiver antennas on both sides. The main control module has a total of 6 fixing screws. Remove the 2 hexagon socket screws on each side of the main and auxiliary antennas. Disconnect the main antenna from the main control port connector. The RTAK main and auxiliary antennas are fixed, with a total of 4 hexagon socket screws. Remove the 4 hexagon socket screws from the front lower cover body. The front lower cover body is fixed with 4 hexagon socket screws. Move the battery case by hand, gently shake it, and then remove it. Remove the hexagonal fixing screws on the left and right sides of the radar. Remove the 2 hexagonal fixing screws on the front side of the radar. Remove the forward radar and unplug the radar connection harness. 4 hexagonal screws are used to fix the downward-looking radar. Disassemble the 4 hexagonal socket fixing screws of the weighing sensor in sequence. Unplug the connection harness of the weighing sensor. Each weighing sensor is fixed by 4 hexagon socket screws. Disassemble the fixing buckle screw of the connecting wire of the weighing sensor. The weighing sensor is secured with 7 wire harness buckles and 7 hexagonal socket screws. Use the M4 hexagonal tool to remove the 4 fixing screws of the paddle clamp. The propeller assembly is fixed by 4 hexagon socket screws. Remove the 4 hexagon socket screws from the motor protective cover. Remove the motor protective cover. Remove the fixing screws of the nozzle mounting bracket on one side. Remove the 3 fixing screws from the motor base. Remove the 4 fixing screws of the electronic control panel. Remove the screws that fix the inner lining of the motor mounting bracket. Remove the powertrain. Disassemble the powertrain with 10 fixing screws. Remove the 4 fixing screws from the motor mounting bracket. The motor is fixed on the mounting base with 4 screws. Wrap the 3-phase wire harness connecting the motor and the electric controller with tape and undo it. Use an art knife to cut open the heat shrink tubing of the 3 wire harnesses in sequence. Gently slide the heat shrink tubing on the outer layer of the 3 wire harnesses with an art knife. Unplug the 3 connection wires of the motor electrical adjustment. The separation of motor and electric control is completed. Recycle the carbon tube of the robotic arm to the buckle. Remove the fixing screws of the connecting rod. Remove the shoulder bolt and fixing nut of the lock buckle assembly shaft. The locking assembly is fixed by a connecting rod screw and a shoulder bolt. Unplug all connecting wires inside the carbon tube. Use a 10 mm wrench to remove the nut at the bottom of the fixed shaft. Remove the folding fastener pivot and take out the carbon tube of the arm. The arm carbon tube is fixed by the arm folding pivot and nut. Cut off the fixing strip of the 360 radar harness and unplug the connecting wire end. Remove the 2 fixing screws from the radar mounting bracket. The radar is fixed by 2 hexagonal screws. Use diagonal pliers to loosen the fixed strip of the FPV connection harness. Unplug the FPV connection harness connector. Remove 2 FPV fixing screws and nuts. FPV is fixed at the support rod with 2 internal hexagonal screws. Remove the nozzle mounting bracket and fix the 4 screws. Disconnect the solenoid valve from the water pipe. Remove the 4 fixing screws of the solenoid valve. Unplug the wiring harness connector and remove the solenoid valve. Remove the 4 hexagonal socket screws that fix the nozzle. Unplug the nozzle connection harness. The nozzle installation bracket and nozzle are fixed by 12 screws. Remove the 8 hexagon socket screws above and below the module bracket. Remove the 8 fixing screws below the module bracket. Remove the front module bracket. There are a total of 16 screws in the front module bracket. Remove the 4 fixing screws from the battery tail plug. Remove the fixing screws of the tail plug interface connection harness. Remove the negative signal wire connector. The positive and negative terminal plugs are fixed with 4 screws and equipped with copper bars for mold opening. Remove the 4 fixing screws from the power interface board and connector housing. The connector housing and power board are fixed by 4 screws. Remove the rear cover body. Disconnect all wiring harnesses. Remove all positive and negative wiring harnesses. Unfasten the longitudinal beam signal line fixed at the tripod with a rolled tape. Remove the 4 fixing screws of the rear bracket. The rear bracket is fixed by 4 screws. Remove the 2 fixing screws above. Remove the 2 fixed screws at the bottom. The rear harness bracket is fixed by 4 screws. Remove the hexagonal socket screw above the battery rail. Remove the hexagonal screw at the bottom of the battery rail. The battery rail is fixed by 4 screws. Remove the hexagonal socket screw from the receiver antenna. Remove the hexagonal fixing screws on the upper part of the arm slot. Remove the hexagonal fixing screw at the bottom of the card slot. The card slot is fixed by 4 hexagon socket screws. Invert the rack and remove the fixing screws of the mounting brackets on both sides of the tripod. Separate the tripod and frame parts. Remove the fixing screws of the tripod mounting base. Remove the tripod and install the fixed base. Remove the fixing screws of the strut bracket. Remove the support rod. Remove the support rod fixing bracket. Remove the 10 hexagon socket screws on top and bottom of the folding fastener. Flip the rack over and remove the screws securing the folding parts. Remove the folding fastener and separate the crossbeam and longitudinal beam. There are a total of 20 hexagon socket screws on each upper and lower part of a single folding fastener.